All right, guys. Welcome back to the FIT40 Podcast, where we simplify exercise and nutrition for busy parents 40 plus so they can improve their health and feel amazing. Today, we have a repeat guest on. We have Tom Sheppard back in the house, and he actually showed up, for those of you watching on YouTube, with the backwards black cap. So we're matching, we're twinning today. Love it. And for anybody who did not catch part one, first, pause here, go back, catch it. It's about 4 or 5 episodes ago. But just to refresh you guys, okay, Tom is the head coach for Elite FTS and TIB Army. He's an author, educator, and presenter. He knows his shit when it comes to getting strong, getting fit, and we just have great conversations. I had to stop what we were talking about before I hit record to be like, I cannot lose this. So get ready for an awesome episode. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And yeah, we probably should have recorded the last 20 minutes, right?
Well, that's one of my big pet peeves is when people hop on podcasts and you enter the room and it's already recording and you're like, oh, I guess we're on. Okay.
Yeah. No pressure.
Yeah. It's I don't want to do that to somebody. That's just it's too startling. I wouldn't be able to handle that.
You need if there's a way to do a sneak recording,
Yeah.
then you get the good stuff without them even knowing. You're like, oh, by the way.
Well, there are some very high level sales coaches that know exactly how to do that.
Oh, I'm sure. About that.
I've been taught a trick or two, but don't worry, guys, I don't do it. But yeah, anyway, the thing that we were chatting on before we hit record was basically we started off with the differences between IQ versus EQ, because everybody knows what IQ is, what's your score? How smart are you? But that's just one data point, one metric of intelligence. And there's this other thing called EQ, and I'm sure there's other things too, but EQ is more about the emotional side of things, or the soft skills. And when it comes to coaching and really getting the best results, you need somebody in your corner that has both. So Tom, what would you say when it comes to that balance? What do you think a good solid coach requires to get the best results for their client?
Sure. I mean, I think for me, the hard skills, if you're looking at this as a coach, for me, the hard skills are you go in with the perception or the looking through the lens of your client is almost like a robot or a video game character that you can modify, or even just a mannequin that's a series of levers, right? You're like, I need these levers to do this or whatever to get the outcome. You need to be able to peel everything back and look at them in that way to identify structurally or physically, what are the weaknesses that I can see in this system? Because that's kind of how we're looking at it now, kind of a workable system we can change. And what are the best modalities or options that I have then to change? So you're looking at them like a video game character, maybe their strength is low or their conditioning is low, or whatever. You can rate them. We need to level them up in certain areas. Or you could be looking at them like a mannequin, being like, okay, so, how do we get more quad focused movement for this person? We need this segment, the knee, to be going further forward in the movements that they're doing, whether it's a front squat or a split squat. What are the things in this basic kind of physical level that I need to achieve to get the outcome I want? Cool. This is what I need. That's the IQ side, being able to boil all that down to anatomy and physiology. It's the same for fat loss. Okay, this client needs fat loss. Well, what are the things that determine this, from a completely cold, unemotional standpoint? We need calorie deficit. We need X amount of protein. After that, we can all debate. Really, it's almost inconsequential after that point. So there. Cool. Now I go over here to EQ, or the soft skills. It's well, now I know what I need to achieve, but how do I make this actually work for this person? Because now we're dealing with people, not the system. Now we're dealing with the people, and people have likes and dislikes and motivation or lack of motivation at times. And then what you need to do is have a big enough toolbox here in the middle between those two kind of perceptions or lenses, where I can take the outcome that I want over here, like the X or whatever I need to get to Y. I have enough tools in this toolbox in the middle where I can say, based on what I see from this person from an emotional or personality standpoint, all of these tools here would achieve the outcome, but this one is probably going to work better for this person. For example, if you've got someone who, let's say, is maybe naturally anxious, or is a real planner of a person. They like everything scheduled out and all this type of thing. Type of person that will have a Google Calendar where everything is structured in the whole day. There's not a blank space anywhere.
Yeah, I definitely don't know anybody like that.
I'm not, that's cool. Maybe, people they're often drawn to jobs that, work with that. They could be accountants or all this type of thing, right? Cool. If you give them a training program where like you plan it 1 week at a time and there's loads of variation, they're probably going to hate that, right? Because they are struck, they like to know what's happening. They like to be able to plan ahead because that gives them like a sense of security. So they want a spreadsheet for like the next 8, 10, 12 weeks, whatever it might be. And they also want to know exactly what's going to happen. Like that person, if you say like, right, today we're going to work up to like a 5 rep max. Well, I don't know what that is. Well, that's a problem. Whereas, if you took a program where it's like, this is the set and reps and the weight we're doing on this week, and then every week it's going to alter like this, they're going to look at that and go, perfect. And then they're going to be more motivated. And at the end of the day, level of motivation is going to be probably the single biggest factor in the effort that goes into the program, which is the single biggest factor that determines its success. Like we have all seen people get really good results on some really stupid training programs, but the effort was simply applied to them that made it happen. Whereas we can't, as much as we may try right now, we can't out science hard work. Like uh, there's no program that's so scientific or so optimal or whatever that effort doesn't need to be applied to it. Like whatever you're going to do, it has to be harder. It's not going to work. So how do we get hard work out of someone? Well, it's certainly not giving them a training program that only contains things they hate, even if those are all the things they actually need to do. It's just not going to work from the get-go. So then you end up with, as a coach, then with that EQ side, and sorry, this is turning into a rant, where you need to know where your client lies on the spectrum of everything they need to do is here. Like from a cold-hearted IQ standpoint, this would be the perfect program if they had no emotions at all, right? And then this is all the stuff they love to do over here. Like this is the soft side. This is where like if you were a trainer who would just like, let's just do the stuff you enjoy. What would that training program look like? That's over here. And you need to know where they sit here. Like if they're a pro athlete, they're getting paid whatever, they can probably be right over here to shut up and do this. Like you're getting paid enough, it probably doesn't matter. You don't probably need to enjoy it. I mean, enjoying it would help, but it's not necessary so much. Whereas, your Gen Pop person who maybe doesn't even want to be in the gym in the first place, or at least is intimidated or like reserved about it, well, they're not going to be over here. You're not going to get anything. They're just going to walk straight back out the door, right? You probably
Yep.
need to start them right here, like 80% of what they like, 20% of what they really need. And then that can change over time. As they get more comfortable in the gym, we can probably shift that needle. Or if they become more invested in a goal, then we can shift the needle because the more you care about a goal, the more you're probably willing to put up with to get there. But if your initial goal is just, I just want to get in the gym, lose a bit of weight and feel better, that's quite abstract. There's not going to be a huge buy-in there. So let's go right down to that. What do you enjoy doing? How often do you want to train? Whatever. Then at some point, it's going to be like, okay, I want to lose X amount of weight, or I want to lift a certain amount, or I want to be able to run 5 miles in whatever time. Now we have something concrete and tethered that they probably care about more. Cool. Now we can start to have the conversation where we put this dial up here. Well, okay, if that's what you want to do, this is what's going to be involved. How do you feel about that? Then you can have that conversation and maybe that dial moves. Or maybe it doesn't, and that's fine. Like as a trainer, you have to meet, it's a horrible phrase because everyone uses it, but you really have to be able to like meet them where they are. Like they're not coming to you to force you to do something they really don't want to do. They're coming to you to facilitate something that they don't know how to do. And I always think in these scenarios, like we as trainers get a kind of lens where we just take what we do for granted a little bit, that we know what a front squat is, or we know how machines work in the gym. We can just go and be like, oh, that's a leg curl, I can set that up. Not everyone's in that scenario. We also generally really like to be in the gym, which again is something
Yeah.
we just project that onto everyone else, which really isn't the case. So it's important to just be like, think about, maybe you go to college now in and study a subject you have absolutely no idea. Like I know nothing about cars, for example. Like changing a tire for me would be like getting a PhD in something. So like it's like me going to like a garage on day one and just being thrown in the deep end and then being like, right, go get that tool and do this. And I'm like, go get what and do what? But that's
Yeah,
how,
it's like when your dad asks you to help him with something and he
yeah.
tells you to grab a tool and you're like, so what is that
Yeah,
again?
that one, that's the one that looks like what?
He's He's like, I asked you about this last time, and how do you not remember? It's like
But
that's
like,
the same thing as when you're like teaching somebody a hinge pattern, and you're like, how do you not get this by now?
yeah, it's we just need to remember sometimes that people are not wired like us, and that's fine, right? But we need to it's based on, and then sometimes, trainers will get frustrated with that, but it's all based on your perception. Like, why do you have the assumption that someone would know what a hip hinge is by the third time you say it? What are you basing that on? Do you have a lot of, like, have your other 100 clients all understood it on go number three? Probably not. So again, we need to remember what lens we're coaching these people through and who they really are. And that, to me, the ability to do that and tailor to that is way more important than the IQ part, like the hard programming skills. Like 80 to 90% of us just need to get in the gym and do some form of hard work that isn't stupid,
Yeah.
that has some form of progression built in. Like we were talking about, like your knowledge and stuff over the last, like you work up and you think everything's incredibly complicated. You learn all these millions of things, and then you get back on the other end and you realize that actually 80 to 90% of it was way simpler than I actually thought. And all the stuff that social media or whatever is arguing about is the stuff over here in this little 5% margin, which sure, it's cool if you're us and you want to know that 5%, but everyone else probably doesn't need to know that. They
Yeah.
just need to go in, they need to do a squat, they need to do a hinge, they need to do a press, they need to do a pull, they probably need to carry something and get progressively better at that stuff using some kind of progression system. And they probably need to do a bit of cardio. That's pretty hard at times. Cool. Now, how do I mask this in a way that just makes you want to do it long enough to actually get results? And that's, it sounds really callous and cold when you sum it up like that, right? But that's what we're here to do. Like,
Yeah.
I gave a workshop a few weeks back, and these were all coaches and stuff, and we are talking about progression systems and all these cool training methods and stuff. And it's like they all work, they're all really cool. I love them. I love nerding out and stuff. But all of this really cool stuff, all of these incredible progression models are basically there to keep you entertained whilst you ignore the cold truth that progression is really slow. So like, all these methods that allow you to like wave the weight up and come back down and whatever else, they're just there to allow you to feel like you're progressing on a micro scale, because the real progress happens on a macro scale that all of us would find a little bit depressing, unfortunately. Like, your client
Yeah.
who wants to put on muscle, if we actually measured their muscle tissue every time they step foot in the gym, if there was a way to do that, they would be like putting on like nanograms.
Yeah.
It'd be like, what am I here for? Like, what is the point of this? Right? Because none of us.
Well, I mean, if we get into like the newbie gains, it's
Mhm.
like maybe we'll see some pronounced effects and be like, see, it's great. But then,
Mhm.
like, what, like 6 months later, we'll be like, so we're kind of chasing centimeters at this point.
Yeah, sure. Like everyone would give up after that phase, right? No one would
Yeah.
get. So like all of this programming stuff is the fine line between keeping you motivated and just doing enough to cause that painfully slow rate of progression so that you're in the gym long enough to actually get the results you really want. Because, as we know, nothing meaningful is actually achieved in like 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, like in the vast majority of cases. And I think that's where a lot of people maybe fall short. And I don't mean to be critical of people in general, but without sounding too philosophical, generally things that come very quickly also go very quickly. Like the amount of, I know I have plenty of examples of clients losing a lot of fat in like 6 or 8 weeks or whatever for specific events or purposes. Cool. But the average person who does that, where are they in 6 months? Or even 3 months, less than that. They don't they don't really build the habits that go with the physique or the level of health or whatever it is that they're aiming for. Whereas really, instead of, I think, looking at goals, and I actually had this conversation with someone yesterday, which is why this comes up. Like, instead of asking them what their goal was, I kind of asked, in your head, like, what is the ideal version of you look like? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? Not like, sorry, not what they lift in the gym or what they look like aesthetically. What does their day-to-day look like? How often do they go to the gym? Are they eating a really structured meal plan? Or, what is important to this idyllic person that you're striving to be? And then let's extrapolate out from that rather than let's look at the goal. Like, because if you're not willing to have the lifestyle that achieves the thing you want, there's always going to be this horrible disconnect, you know? So as we go from it like, oh, okay, well, my ideal would be to like go to the gym 3 days a week for like an hour, 90 minutes, whatever, you know, be reasonably structured, but like at the weekends be able to enjoy myself or whatever, maybe have a drink here or there, whatever it might be. And, you know, I probably will miss a workout if something else comes up. That's cool. That's cool. If you do that for long enough, you will get good results. But this is the kind of level you're going to get to with that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a bad thing. Everyone's going to settle down on this spectrum of like commitment versus results, you know? But I think that's an important conversation that probably needs to be had with more clients earlier on is that they need to understand the lifestyle that goes with certain goals. Like in this circumstance, the person sent me an Instagram profile of a high level CrossFit athlete. And as you can imagine, she's in incredible shape. Like she's probably trained extremely hard for 10 plus years and probably trains twice a day some days and, you know, is rigorous with nutrition. And she probably could achieve that if she did the same thing.
Yeah.
But then the question was, do you want to do that? Oh, I'm not so sure. Well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But just know that that's what that takes most of the time. So where do you fall on that spectrum by comparison? And as soon as you can get those kind of expectations aligned, things tend to go a lot better because again, it's all about perception. A lot of the time when we're in the gym and we're putting in the hard work, we perceive we're not getting the results when actually we are. They're just not as good as we were maybe hoping for. And then you
Yeah.
lose hope or you know you get frustrated because you're not living up to a standard that was never actually going to be achieved anyway. So
Yeah. I think people got to understand that like there's levels and different parts of the journey require different levels. And I think that gets lost in a lot of what people see
mhm,
because to your point, like everybody gets to that point where they're like, I want to achieve what this person achieved. And then if they do come to that realization of like, hey, I don't want to take it to that level because I don't want to make these sacrifices, then it turns into this thing like, well, now it's like you're feeling guilty because if you're not chasing the top, then what's wrong with you?
yeah,
And it's this weird kind of dynamic. But in reality, like I actually just got off a podcast with my buddy Phil, and we were talking about like how I do it, like with PFC and then calories and then macros. It's like you can get away with basic stuff for a long, long time
mhm,
until that doesn't work anymore. And then you level up and you just kind of climb the ladder over time. But you got to start at a place where it's easy or
yeah, for sure.
like enough, easy
Yeah,
enough.
absolutely. I mean, it's all in the long term, it's all habit building, right? Like that CrossFit athlete, I bet she didn't start training twice a day, 5 days a week at the start, right? And
No.
I think people really underestimate their ability to build the right habits. And again, this is literally a conversation I had a few days ago. Like all of us have bad habits, right, that we want to get rid of. We never doubted our ability to create those habits. Like we all built all these habits that maybe we do or don't like, but we are just a summation of our habits. We have all these habits right now. Did we even think about building any of those? No, probably not. And here we are, we have them all. We all brush our teeth every morning. We all do whatever, you know, whether drink 3 cups of coffee a day or go out for a meal on Friday night or whatever. We all built those. So why can you not build these? You know, it's
Yeah.
the first thing you're doing is deciding you can't do it, which is a problem, right? There's plenty of studies on they refer to it as like I believe it's like an open or a closed mindset where people
Yeah. Or
believe
fit. What was it with Carol
fixed.
Dweck?
I think
Fixed
that's it.
and oh my, what is it? Fixed and something else. I cannot remember. It's like escaping me right now.
Yeah,
Actually,
I'm the
I
same.
have it right here.
You have the book. That's perfect.
Where are you? Yeah.
That's a good
W-
book.
I feel like it should just be on the front cover.
Well, it would be
I want to
convenient.
say it's fixed and open mindset, but I know
Let's
open's
just
not
go
the
with
right
that for
word.
now. But like, you know, the
Yeah,
idea
you
very simply is that people who believe that their abilities and their habits are pliable or more pliable actually do make progress and make change. Whereas those who feel that think behaviors and skill level, etc., are more ingrained generally don't because they hit a wall and they just kind of assume that that's their upper limit and that's where they're stuck. So I think going in and looking at this with the mindset of like, or you are a summation of your habits, which means you already have a bunch. So you can change them. And that's where if you're going to set any goals, that's probably where your goals should be, right? Because, you know, like bench pressing 2 plates, okay, or running a half marathon. Or those are all cool goals, but those will happen as a result of the day-to-day boring stuff that you need to do to get them. So if the goal becomes like, hey, I want to just stick to hitting 3 runs every week or hitting my protein target every day, if or something like if those goals are you sorry, if those become your goals and they happen, then you those other goals kind of almost have to happen as a side effect of that, you know? And I think that's where more emphasis needs to be rather than like the actual act or the outcome, goals that are more grounded in the process, because then you also have wins every day, which is kind of nice, right? Like
Yeah.
there, and I'm not trying to deter people from these loftier goals, but if we were looking at this as like a business transaction or an investment, right? Let's say, my goal is to run a marathon in a certain time, whatever. Let's say it takes me a year to train for that marathon. That's a lot of investment, a lot of effort over that year. You run the marathon, cool. How long are you happy for? Maybe a day.
Crossing the finish line.
Yeah, like it's the same with a PR in the gym. Like you hit a weight and you're like, cool, 10 pounds more or whatever. You're like almost within a minute sometimes. You're like, oh man, that was short-lived. So if you're looking at it as like a business transaction, like, hey, you're going to make this year-long investment and you're going to be really happy, but maybe for like a day. Then the soreness will hit you and you probably won't be happy anymore. It sounds like a really bad investment, doesn't it? Really. Whereas if you
Yeah.
said, well, what if your investment was in the goals of like hitting your runs every week or hitting your protein target every day? Sure, you're not going to get this huge spike, of crossing the finish line on the marathon, but you're not going to get that giant drop off at the other end where it's like the what now type, because
Yeah.
we've all been there, right? And then you just get this constant feedback of like you are on the right path. So I don't
Mhm.
think having those loftier goals is a bad thing, but it would be really cool if more people also set goals that were just those little stepping stones every day that were more process driven. I just think that would make the process easier and more rewarding for more people because you do get otherwise you do get over invested, and that there is such a thing as being over invested, because
Oh, 100%.
higher you put that goal, whether it's that marathon finish or whatever, the loftier you put that up in your expectations, man, the harsher the fall is on the other side of it.
Yep.
The more you big it up, the worse it is afterwards. So just having those little wins along the way as well that you're not crazy investing, but that just give you enough to keep going. I think that's a huge part. And again, that's probably a conversation that needs to be had with clients or whatever. Like, yeah, sure, let's set all those cool goals for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, whatever. But what are we gonna achieve by next week? What's our goal there? What are you going to be able to come into the gym and tell me at your next session that you did well? Like what goal are we going to take there? And there's nothing wrong with that being like incredibly simple.
Yeah.
Like
Simple is usually better than
yeah,
complex anyway. But I
yeah,
like how you're kind of digging into the concept because I know when it comes to happiness and fulfillment, people have like different definitions or like what exactly it is. But so many people do treat it like a destination when it's really more of a practice and like a flow of state of like, I do these things and I live this lifestyle that I feel fulfilled by, not I did this thing.
yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at all the things that you probably already do every day, or at least consistently, like in your weekly structure, like brush your teeth or, whatever, like watch a movie with your family on Friday night or whatever it might be, do you go into those with a goal-based mindset? Do you sit down with your
I
partner?
am going to enjoy the shit out of this Marvel
Yeah.
movie.
Do you know
Just
what I mean?
watch
Like,
me.
you don't sit down with your partner and put on a movie and be like, the goal of the next 2 hours is this. And I'm going to celebrate when I achieve.
Unless you're Andrew Tate, I think that's the only guy that like will actively do
Fair.
that.
Yeah, that's fair. Everything will do there. But like, none of them have a specific end goal or there is no destination to brushing your teeth or turning up to work every day for a lot of people, We do them because they're habitual process-driven processes. And pretty much everything that we do for a very long time becomes that way. Like the person that who's been playing piano or guitar since they were like 12, they don't have a goal in mind every time they pick up their instrument. It's just, I do it. It's something I do. Maybe I don't even know why I do it at this point, perhaps. But there's going to be some degree of enjoyment and there's going to be some degree of just, it's a process that I do that I enjoy and gives me some kind of fulfillment. And if you want the gym or, whatever it might be to be in your life long term, then in my opinion, it needs to be very similar because every goal has an end date. And then what after the end date? It's
Yeah.
if there's not a bedrock or a solid foundation of something lying underneath that goal of I just enjoy doing this thing, then that's when you're going to fall off the wagon. And I do genuinely believe that's why people do a lot of the time. I'm sure you've seen it. Like clients have like a vacation or a wedding or whatever, like straight down the line, narrow, like really good adherence or whatever. Then that's gone. And it's like, well, what are you falling back to now? Or was it always that superficial goal? And there was never this bedrock of building a habit, building a relationship with your training or your diet or whatever that can last a lifetime or whatever it might be, because that's what you're always going to fall back to when you either succeed or fail in those goals. So that I think that's where the trainer comes in personally, because it's not your job to tell them what their goals are. Like
Yeah.
that's one way to
We're,
fail
we're
miserably.
we are the world's best resource. We're not a dictation of what your life
Oh, for
should
sure.
be.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about what the service actually is, they're paying you to get them to their goal. They're not paying you
Yeah.
to tell them what their goal should be, right?
But I do think that like throws a lot of coaches for a loop that
Oh,
like
sure.
want to like white knuckle the entire process where it's like
Mhm.
I think clients need to be emboldened and kind of given the autonomy to be like this is my
Yeah.
journey.
Well, it is, yeah, because what satisfaction are you going to get from achieving a goal that is someone else's? Zero. Absolute
It's
zero.
going to feel
Like,
really hollow and shallow at the end if you
yeah,
do
well,
get
like
there.
we've already spoken, it's possible to overinvest in a goal, but you need some in there. And if it's someone else's goal, you're gonna have zero. There's gonna be all this effort for what you perceive as no payoff at all. That's why your goal as a coach is just be like, cool, that's what you want. This is the most sensible path towards it that also works with your natural kind of, should we say, stipulations or preferences or whatever. And I think a lot of the time, what it comes down to, maybe this is too critical, I don't know, but just in my experience, it's either an ego or like a confidence thing as a coach. You're like, well, I want to be able to show what I'm capable of. I know all this cool stuff that they should want to do, and because then they'll achieve X, Y, and Z. So maybe they don't want X, Y, and Z. Maybe they just want to go on holiday and just not feel terribly embarrassed, take their shirt off, or whatever. Maybe they don't care about benching 3 plates. Like they're not here to make you look good.
Yeah.
You are
And
here to make them feel better.
yeah, and to your point about like them taking their shirt off on vacation or whatever it is, it's like, and that allows them to be more present with their family because that's one less thing that they have to worry about. And you're unlocking this area of their life that they've been almost there's like the e-brake has been on, and then we
Mhm.
unlock that, and it allows them to live
Yeah.
this better quality of life, which is like, yeah, they could do the world's best program in the world, but what does that matter if they don't get that other result? It's like, let's get that result first. And if they want to have fun and take it to that next level, great. But like, this is about improving your life at the end of the day. It's not about being the bestest gym person.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And again, coach's lens, sometimes I think we think the gym is more important to people than it really is, right?
Oh,
But
yeah. Well,
I
just
think
work with athletes and you figure that out real quick.
oh,
That is
yeah, like,
not.
and I love that when a big thing that comes up with coaches, like, "Oh, I can't wait until I get to a level where I get to work with like pro athletes because then I get to show what I'm capable of." I'm like, dude, they do not want to be there. They do not have time for you. And they're already training 5 days a week. Like you have this much to work with in terms of resources. Like if you think it's easier, no, they all have their own set of problems. The difference with Gen Pop is that in general, they come to you because they want to be there. A lot of the time, those athletes are coming there because their coach makes them be there. They don't want to be there. So, anyway, that's an aside, but I
Yeah.
always
No,
find that.
it's very true because I mean, I know I've never worked with that with college or professional, but I've worked with a ton of high school athletes like and it's like if you
Same
get
thing.
one or two kids that are like, yeah, I want to get jacked or like I want to look good for the ladies. I don't really care about my sport, but I want to get jacked. You're like, "All right, let's do this thing." And the rest of them are like, I know this makes me better. Like my
Yeah,
parents told me to come here, so I'm here.
yeah, that's it. This is what I'm doing instead of doing the sport that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's
Yeah.
pretty much that most of the time, right? But to backtrack to like your point about goals, again, like I think so, you've probably, and you can say your experience here, I hope, but there are a lot of people that I think are almost ashamed or like shy about what their goals really are. You
Yeah.
know, like there's like this social stigma of like, if you are just training to look better, like that's not good enough. As you know, what I mean, like if it is like take your shirt off at the beach and not feel like that, they almost feel like, oh, I need my goal needs to have some deeper meaning or needs to be not just says who? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest. If someone came up to us and said, "Hey, do you want to look worse?" We'd all say no. And if someone came up and said, "Do you want to look better?" You'd say yes. Like, we all
Yeah.
have some degree of
I,
vanity. Like, sorry,
I
go on.
think I was just going to say, I think it really comes down to whatever comes next. Like you want to look better or chase this vanity for what
Yeah.
purpose?
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you're chasing for guys, for example, if you're
Mhm.
chasing that six pack and jacked arms because you think that's the key to unlock all of the ladies' attention around you, rude awakening, you're going to get a lot of attention from dudes being like, bro, how'd you do that? And the
Yeah.
ladies are going to be like, yeah, he doesn't look very fun. He's like in the gym all the time and he's got no personality, so I'm all set on that. Or
Yeah.
is it like, okay, I don't have to worry about like how I look now. It's just that's one less worry in my head. Now I can focus on other aspects of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, if that means they can be on vacation with their family and feel better, then why do what on earth could be more important than that? You know, like just to use me as an example, I'm a great example of anything. Like I prefer being leaner because now when I present at workshops or I'm on podcasts, like I have to look at my own face, unfortunately. Like when I'm leaner, it just makes me feel a little bit more confident. That's it. That so like if it allows me to do my job better, and my job for me is something that I find extremely fulfilling, then that's not why would that be a bad thing? You know, like who is anyone to tell me that that's not a good goal? And I really wish we could remove all that stigma and every person who comes in the gym on day one could be like, I'm here for this, and just plant their flag in the sand with their chest up and be like, I don't care what anyone thinks, this is what I want. Because I think there's a lot of that, and people almost end up convincing themselves they need to go for this over here instead of this over here. Like I work with a lot of strength athletes, and I very often end up having the conversation of why do you compete? Because sometimes they don't even know. They don't know
Yeah.
why. It's just like this thing that other people did that they were told they probably should do, and they'd love it, and they kind of like, I just did it, and now I don't really know how to not do it. Almost. It's like, well,
Yeah.
what do you get from it? And if they can't give a good answer, then it's like, you don't have to do this, right?
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
interesting you say that because, like, when I had a little bit of the powerlifting bug for a few
Mhm.
years, I would listen to the top guys like talk about their training and their lives. And I'm just like, some of these guys don't really seem that happy. And like, they're making these trades I don't think I would ever make. Like,
Mhm.
I know, like, Dave Tate, for example, is very vocal about the fact that, like, when his kid was very young, he would like isolate himself and leave his wife to do everything because he had to compete. And it's like, I don't know if I can make that trade consciously.
No, I get it. And again, it all comes back to that. Here's your goal over here, but what's the lifestyle that goes with that? Are you okay with that? And if, you can wholeheartedly say, I'm okay with those sacrifices, like, cool. Like, really, it sounds like a horrible conversation to have with a person, but rather than saying, like, what do you want? We should be saying, like, what are you willing to give up?
Yeah.
What are you willing to sacrifice to achieve this thing that you supposedly really want? That will soon tell you, not you as the coach, the person themselves, like, do I actually really want this? Because if that list is really small, that tells you everything you need to know. But then also that's okay. That's not
Yeah.
like I had a client like last year who has the goal of squatting 1,000 pounds in reps, which he will do, which is 454 kilos or whatever for those who work in the other conversion. And but there was a point in his life where like his life at home just sucked. He was too heavy, his diet was poor, but like he wasn't home enough because he was in the gym all the time. And he was getting really close. And it was like, dude, do you want your wife and kids to be in the crowd when you squat 1,000 pounds? Yes. Well, then there are probably some other things that you need to align. Let's taper things back and have another stab at this in like 6 months. And, I can have that conversation with him because I've been coaching him for like a year or so at that point. We have a relate and we spoke about this. Like I can say the hard things and he knows they're coming from a good place. If I'd been training him for like a month, I can't have that conversation, right? And then that's exactly what we did. We took a step back, and now, like a year later, we're creeping back towards that. But now he's taking his kids to their baseball games every Saturday, and all this. He wants to go home from work, and it's like, well, yeah, sure. Now you're going to squat the grand, and you're going to be able to look over in your kid's super excited face, and they're going to hopefully run over to you and hug you or whatever. Like, and your wife's going to be there smiling rather than either not there or just like, no, it doesn't care. Like they're going to be part of it now. And what's more important? Like if you're going to look back, when you look back in 10 years time, when you rack that bar and they're not there, you're not going to be proud of it at all. You're going to be like,
Yeah.
I did it, but I don't like what I did to achieve it. Or you can do it the other way. And, I think that again speaks to, as a trainer, that soft skills, that EQ, whatever you want to call it, like you need to build enough trust with people that you can be the friend who calls them out on their BS, but they know it's coming from the right place because you're going to have to do that at times as a trainer. So if you're not personable enough and you don't show genuine interest and investment in their goals, you're never going to be able to have the conversations that you probably really need to have with them to keep them on the straight and narrow because no one just gets to that point wherever it is their goal is on their own. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here having this conversation with them. Like they wouldn't have hired you. They had all the
Yeah.
skills and the knowledge. They'd be out there doing it without you. The whole reason you're here is because there are things they feel they can't do. Maybe it's because they don't know how to do it, or because they need some kind of external source of motivation or accountability, whatever. Either way, you're going to need to be in a position where you can maybe criticize, maybe too harsh of a word, but and it be interpreted correctly. And if you don't know the social skills, like the body language, the word choice, the right timing to say these things, like let's say they just did their squat set and they failed it and they're pissed off, and they just throw the rack back in the bar back in the rack. Like that's now is not the time to say, well, you've only been sleeping 4 hours a day or night, whatever. Like that's probably why you missed it.
It's
No,
like, thanks, Dick.
yeah, now is the time to say, cool, okay, like we're fatigued today. Let's go do some other stuff that's not going to drain you so bad. And then maybe next tomorrow or next day, whatever, when they're in a bit of a better state, that's when we can have the, so how's your sleep been conversation? Come at it from the right angle. Like it's the same conversation, just framed very differently, right? And again, as a coach, if you don't know how to do those things, then you're not going to get very far. Like
Yeah.
you, and this is where I really wish that stuff was focused on more. Like you can do a PT certification or whatever, and you can learn all about programming and training methods and whatever. But if your client thinks you're a dick, excuse the French, you're not going to get very far. It's that
Hey,
simple.
all's good on this
Hmm.
podcast. There have been plenty of F bombs dropped, so
Hmm.
that's totally okay.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and I think for the end user listening right now, for anybody who's like, this is making a lot of sense. I think if you're debating going into a gym or like a group class or whatever, like pick the thing that looks like it's that level of fun and enjoyable and gets you going. Because how many people say got into CrossFit powerlifting that started with something like step aerobics or like with a spin class, and you're just like, that opened the door. And if you find an instructor or a personal trainer that passes the beer test, that you're just like, hey, I like this person. They're cool. I like hanging with them. I'll keep coming back just to hang out with them. That's going to serve you so much further. And then if you want to level up and they don't have the skills, you could always jump up to that next level. But you got to start right there and get to that place of enjoyment and eventually find somebody who can point you in the direction Tom just mentioned, where it's like you get crystal clear on exactly what the journey is, what is required, and what you want to do.
Hmm. And I think, this will get too philosophical, so I apologize in advance. Like, there's a cool example. So, like for example, in Japanese, there is no word for retirement. There is no word that has the definition of you completely cease working forever and never go back to work. And they have the whole terminology of like ikigai and things like that, which I probably pronounce very badly. I'm sorry. Which is basically the idea that you have like a calling or a karma or whatever we want to butcher it and call it. Basically, something that you feel drawn to that gives you fulfillment. Now, that could be a career, but like you're gonna have a gym-based ikigai. There's gonna be something that like draws you in, and you just do it because it just feels like it's right. If you and that may change over time. Like You may go in at step aerobics and that feels like the right thing, but then you've got, suddenly else something else feels right. And that's cool too. But, all of the stuff we've talked about, all of the aspirations these people have, you're going to need to do it for a long time. And if you're going in on day one, like counting down the 90 days or whatever it's going to be to get to your goal, it's never going to work. And you're never going to get the benefits of all of this stuff really anyway. If you don't, it needs to become part of your life. So what does that look like? If this training, whatever it might be, is going to become part of your life, what does that look like for you? And go with that. And if that changes over time, keep going with that. Like no one is doing the same workout on day one as they are on day 5,000. No one. It changes, it's fluid, and like that's also absolutely fine because you change as a person over the time frame that you're in the gym or whatever it might be, hopefully, because you age, you mature, your priorities change, whatever it might be. So just go in and be like, what feels right, what feels like it gives me the right sense of purpose or fulfillment, whatever you want to call it. And sure, just go down on that. Go deep on that. Go with your passion and learn about it, do it to a higher level, but then don't be surprised when that changes. And every
Yeah.
step along the way, like this is also why, like, if you are working with a coach, quite often the coach that gets you from A to B is not the person that gets you from B to C or whatever, because we as coaches, we have our own personal biases and skill sets and stuff. And no coach is an expert in powerlifting and marathon running because you can't be. Because being an expert means you have to dedicate X amount of time to it. You can't do that to 10 different things, right? So maybe your coach needs to change, or your influences need to change, or the people you train with needs to change. But all of that's totally fine. And as long as it feels like it's where you should be doing what you should do. And there's only so long that you can grit your teeth and kind of grind through something. And I'm talking more training modalities now, not necessarily what type
Yeah.
of program you're running or like, if you're someone who just loves swimming, but you're in there doing spin classes 4 days a week because you were told that would tone your legs up more or whatever, even if it did, you wouldn't be in there for long enough, putting enough effort in to actually get that benefit. So go swim and just get
Yeah.
better and let's see what happens with that. So I just think people need to maybe just experiment a little bit more and just be a little bit more open-minded about there is no what I should be doing. The only should is that you should be doing something. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm biased because I'm a meathead. I love lifting weights. So, people get drawn to me for that. But it really doesn't matter what it is. You just need to do something physical, and that's fine, whatever that might be.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you said that because I think a lot of people would be better served if they looked at something and said, okay, can I stick to this for a year?
Hmm.
And if the answer is yes, go for it. But if it's like this short term thing, I put a little note because this is definitely making its way to social media at some point. But it's like if you're counting the days, you've already lost.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, if you were talking about nutrition coaching earlier, if you send someone a diet plan and their first question is, when's my cheat meal? You're like, this battle is lost already. Like it's day one. Like either the structure is so unsuiting to them that they've looked at it and gone, I can't wait to have my first cheat meal because they've looked at your diet plan and gone, or the goal isn't important enough to them and there's not enough buying, whatever it might be. And yeah, it's the same, if you're if you can't wait till your workout is over, you ain't gonna last long. Like this is why I genuinely think people should take breaks from the gym or train less frequently as an experiment, not necessarily because it's more optimal or beneficial, whatever, but do you miss your workout? Like how long does it take for you to go, oh man, I want to get in the gym? Because if you start to miss what you do, whether it's running or lifting, whatever, then you're on the right path. Like if you go on vacation with your family and by the end of the week, you're like, "Oh, I'm looking forward to getting back and doing my first spin class or my lifting session, whatever, you are definitely going in the right direction. Whereas if you're sat there on the beach on like Sunday or whatever, and you're like, ah, man, tomorrow evening's my first session, whatever, maybe you're not in the right place. In the same way that, like, if you're dreading going home, your home life probably sucks. In a
I mean,
similar
there are
sense.
parallels here.
Yeah, yeah.
There.
There are so many, and that could fill hours on itself. But that for me is a great acid test. Like when I have people go on vacation, if they come back to me and they say, "Oh man, so stoked to get back in the gym today," I'm like, we are on the right path. This is perfect. Like, sure, there may be times where you have to do stuff that's a little bit less fun or whatever. But, you know, if there's like a competition or something like that, you don't get much choice. But most of the time, it should be like, dude, I had to take 3 days off for a business trip, got back in the gym, and I was really happy to be there. Perfect. That means I'm doing my job
Yep.
properly. Like, I don't care what you're lifting, how you're lifting, or whatever. Like, as long as it goes towards your goal and you're happy to be in there getting towards your goal, that's it. That's the currency that we should be dealing in with as trainers, you know, not like how many clients do you have that have six packs or transformation photos or whatever. It's like how happy are your clients to be there?
Yeah.
And if the answer is not very, well, then something is way off.
Yeah. The ultimate goal really is to get people to the place where they crave feeling good. And the way to feel good is eating a certain way and
Mhm.
staying active. And if there is that crave factor, it's like you've won
Yeah.
because you're never going to fall off. And I'm so glad that this is going to drop like probably sometime in June, maybe early July when people are going on vacation. So
Mhm.
everybody use your vacations as a test to find out, hey, am I craving going back because I know it feels good and I enjoy that feeling, or are you dreading it for
Exactly.
certain reasons that need to be addressed? And then you could hit Q3 of this year and say, hey, I'm going to do things the right way for me that are going to lead me in a better direction.
Mhm. I mean, just again, to use myself as an example, just gets an easy one. I have been following my current diet plan for, I think this is week 93. Pretty certain it is anyway. And when I say that, when I say following it, I mean like there have been incremental changes, but it's the same structure, pretty much the same foodstuffs and whatever. And I'm naturally a person that I use the quote a lot from The Dark Knight where the Joker describes himself as a dog chasing cars. Like you wouldn't know. That's kind of what I'm like. Like with my training, I'm like, I always want to change goals and chase after this thing and try this method. And I was the same with nutrition. It was always an experiment. So I was like, can I find a structure that works for me so well that that goes away? And I did. And here I am 90. But you know, I could tell you 1,000 reasons why this structure is not optimal for anything. You know, and we could pick it apart very easy. But what is optimal about it is I can do it for 93 weeks. I can follow it on vacation. And actually it doesn't actually to no detriment either, if you know what I mean. And lo and behold, it's the best nutrition structure I've ever used because I followed it for 93 weeks. You know, I mean, it's the same like people get really, and I actually just made a video about the keto diet, for example. People get really hell bent and caught up on like, oh, this type of diet is bad for this or this type. What's the one you can do? Let's just do that. And then over time, maybe we tweak it, maybe your goals change and we need, but like, what can you just actually do day in, day out that doesn't feel like pulling teeth? Go do that one. Because all, and as we kind of alluded to, like 80 to 90% of this game, whether it's training or nutrition, is the really basic, simple rocks, big rocks that we all know. You know, it's calories, correct, protein requirement. We can probably argue like water and fiber intake, you know, on top of that too. Outside of that, it's almost carte blanche, especially if you don't have aspirations to be a competitive bodybuilder or you know whatever it might be. Like as long as you're within that 80-90%, you're ticking those couple of basic boxes. Now it's just cool, wash, rinse, repeat, ad infinitum, forever, you know, like go do that. And if that's the keto diet or that's intermittent fat, like for example, I do intermittent fasting. I also train fasted, which again, I could give you 1,000 reasons why someone with my goals should absolutely not do that. But why do I do it? Because I wake up early and I like to go to the gym when no one else is there. And it's peaceful. I just get on with my workout. It's like my meditation time almost. And then I come home and I have the whole day with my wife or whatever, and it doesn't get in the way of anything. So why should I give up 2% more gains for the cost of all that other stuff? No, I'm going to do exactly this because I can do that day in, day out, week in, and everyone else should do the same. Like, and again, we get that. It's like, oh, well, you know, the only time I can train is first thing in the morning and it's bad to train fasted. Go train. Like,
Yeah.
what's the other option here? Not training? Because I can give you plenty of research that tells you that's not great either. Yeah.
Well, I love the people that chase the optimization, and it's like you realize to optimize there has to be something there. Like
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
you're not doing anything, how can you optimize that?
Yeah. Absolutely. And like, zero. you can times 0% adherence by any degree of optimality you want, and it will still be zero. You know,
Yep.
and then again, we're talking adherence and habits. If they don't last long enough, you know, anyone can be 100% for a week. What can you achieve in a week? Like, what are you going to achieve in a year? Like you said, like where are you going to be in a year? What are you going to be doing day in, day out in a year from now? What does that look like? That's the important stuff. And again, I think a lot of that comes down to like what I said earlier about us like trying to out science everything. Like, let's not try and let's not try and overemphasize what we do here. Like, let's just check the ego aside. Like, our goal here is to just get you eating well enough to be healthy, get you training hard enough to be healthy, and then keep it enjoyable enough that you do that forever. Like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, sure. There, like, I work with a lot of strength athletes. That's a little bit different, but that still plays into it because guess what? You don't become a great power lifter in a year. No, you don't. 10 years in, everyone asks you what your secret is. It's like, well, it's 10 years. There's your secret, right? So if we start looking at it through that mind frame, like no one, all of us have supposedly done things that are optimal at some point. How long, like, are we still doing them now? No. We
Yeah.
always end up reverting back to the 80-90% that we enjoy and we can do consistently. And then we generally go through like little periods where we're like, oh, I'm going to switch it up a notch now. And then it falls by the wayside or whatever time. So my argument would then be to those people who make those points, is it optimal? Because isn't optimal determined by the outcome, not by the theory behind it, if you know what I mean. So
That might have to be the title of this.
yeah,
Isn't optimal determined by the outcome?
yeah, because if it gets you to where you want to be, then it is optimal. I don't care what anyone says. Like I said, my training program, your training program, our diet plans, whatever, anyone could pick them apart if they really wanted to. But the
Oh
point
yeah.
is, it's what you and I can do day in, day out to actually get somewhere. Cool. Like, I just don't quite understand why we're trying to make it more complicated because it's already complicated for people. Again, remove the coaching glasses, like stepping foot in the gym on day one. Like, I don't know rice has carbs in it. I don't know how many carbs I should eat. I don't know how many calories an elliptical session builds or what intensity it should be at. It's already complicated enough for most people. Why are we arguing about whether they should be doing supersets or not? Or like plant versus animal protein or all of this other stuff matters to us, but really not to them. And it's
No.
cool for us to talk about them and maybe refine our processes. But for the 80-90% that hopefully are listening out there, like just forget all that. If something is interesting enough to make a social media post about, it's probably not important to you. And that's unfortunately probably really accurate. You know, like
Yep.
but that is if it's attention grabbing enough to post about it, it's probably not important to most of you. That's the sad reality. It's really boring, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which is why,
Because it if
God,
people wanted the world's best diet, the world's best strength training, they'd be bored to tears.
hmm
It's the most unsexy thing in the world. And then when you see somebody making these outrageous claims, you're just like, I see why people gravitate because this sounds
yeah.
so much better than the basics.
Oh, it does for sure. And again, I think some of it sometimes comes back to like coaching confidence and stuff like that. Like I will openly admit right now, I've got one or two clients that have basically been doing the same training program for like 6, 7, 8 months. And it's like, you know, we go through the process, watch their videos, whatever. They've improved the amount I would like in that time frame. Cool. Add 2%, go again.
Yeah. That
Yeah, and
one of my
sorry, go
favorite
on.
questions to ask because I do that too. Like
Mhm.
I've had I want to say like 3 or 4 of my in-person clients on the exact same program for maybe like 8 to 12 months at this point with like minor changes due to injuries or tweaks or whatever, but basically the same thing. And I
Mhm.
heard like Luca Hosfer on his podcast, he said he did the same thing because at the end of the day, it comes down to what do they want and is it achieving the goal? And when you
Mhm.
have those two things factored in, a lot of people just want certainty that what they're doing is working.
Yeah, for sure. Like I get the entertainment factor. I understand I do. Like I'm the worst almost for that. But nothing is more entertaining than getting the results you want. I guarantee you that. You know, like nothing will keep you motivated better than that. So if it's doing that, like again, if it's getting you that 1 or 2% better every month, you have like some kind of metric, like you know that's happening, why would you change that? Like, just cool, sign me up again. Because
Yeah.
those wins just keep stacking and stacking. And again, I do think a lot of that comes down to the coach. Sometimes it's either like maybe there's something else I could be doing that would get them 2.1% better rather than two. Like, dude, trust me, they don't care.
Yeah.
And or it's the like, oh, I'm gonna look like a lazy coach if I don't introduce all this variation and stuff. And it's like the goal is the goal. It's that if they're getting towards it, you're doing your job. If they're happy that you don't need to change their training program, then you've struck gold because you've gone past them feeling the need to be entertained. They're now just in the process of like, I come in, I tick the box, I do the work, I get the outcome. Like, okay, it doesn't sound flashy, but like that's how we treat our jobs. And we all turn up to work every day for 8 hours or whatever, like,
And guess what? You get paid.
yeah, like we don't sit down at our desk and be like, oh, what new stuff's going to be in my job today? No, it's going to be the same stuff you did yesterday, just maybe the tiniest bit different. And again, all the things that you actually do long term are like that. They're pretty monotonous, pretty boring, but you kind of bought into them and eventually they just become things you do. Like if
Yeah.
someone asked me why I train now, I'd kind of be like, I just don't really know how to not do it at this point. In the
Yeah.
same way that like you get up in the morning, you go in the bathroom, your toothbrush is there, you just do it, right? And if you want to be in it long enough, it kind of has to get to that point. And if when you do, it's a wonderful place to be. And then you start wondering, like, well, why did I chase all of this other stuff? I just
Yeah.
needed to
And
find the thing that gave me that feeling where like I can just rock up, do it, and go home, and that's cool. Like that's all it needs to be.
yeah. And I think people do sometimes fall into the trap of like when they're looking for entertainment or always something new, it could potentially be a situation where we're like masking something. Like if you do have it figured out and that box is checked and you're no longer spending mental energy on that, now there's a bit of a void where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so what do I fill here? And you see like the personality types that will go on ridiculous amounts of runs and like be in the gym 7 days a week and they overtrain and beat up their body to avoid that void. And
Yeah.
it's usually something like they don't want to deal with pain or trauma or loneliness or something like that. Have you noticed that happen? And if so, like, what would you say to somebody that's like almost scared to get to the point where they have it figured out because then they don't really know what to do with themselves?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's super common, right? Like we're a lot of the time we're resorting to other things to like mask other things or fill a void that's been left by something else. Or, for some it might even be like an addiction. Or like I've had clients who are like previously alcoholics, and it's like, well, I come and train with you in the evening because then I'm not at the pub. I'm not there downing 10 pints before I go to work the next day or whatever. And, in that circumstance, that's good. Like that's obviously a good trade.
Yeah.
Over time, you need to get to the point where you don't have to be in the gym to not be drinking. And it's the same then with other people. Like we use the example of going on vacation and being excited to come back to your workout. But is it rattling your brain like crazy that you're not in the gym on your vacation? Because if it is, then there's something there that's a problem. Like, what is the gym doing for you, or whatever your training might be? What is it doing for you that you probably should be getting elsewhere? Like, is it just a lack of self-confidence and like identity? Like, what you like being the guy who trains all the time. Like, everyone looked like, oh, that guy's here at 5 a.m. every morning. Right? Like, you like being that guy. Why is so much of your identity pinned on that? Like, what do you feel like you're lacking that you need that in your life to give you self-confidence, for example? Or is it that, and this is a common one, like you don't trust your ability to eat well if you don't have the gym there? Like quite often they go hand in hand for people, right? And say they get an injury, the diet habit is kind of so firmly stacked on top of the gym habit that if the gym habit goes, the food habit goes, and everything just kind of collapses. So is that why you must train, for example? Well, then we need to do some work on like how do we remove them? How do we unstick them from each other and get you better at create a relationship where you're not dieting just because you have some work to undo, which is usually what it is. Like, oh, I trained really hard, I burnt X amount of calories, therefore I stick to my diet because I don't want to ruin that hard work. Well, let's
Yeah.
just remove them from apart. Let's look at the nutrition on its own and say, let's find some other motivators. Like what else could nutrition be doing for you? Well, let's talk about like your health, your well-being, your energy levels, your mood, your ability to concentrate at work, whatever it might be. Why don't we look at your diet plan in that it's achieving those things for you? And reframe it so like, okay, you're on vacation or you're not training. You still want to feel good though, right? You don't want to have like brain fog or like be hungry or, whatever it might be, or just feel lethargic because you ate a whole pizza, whatever it might be. You still want to feel at your best whilst you're not training. So why not? Let's look at the nutrition as like, this is what just makes you feel good day in, day out. And maybe when we reframe it to that, we can kind of pull those two habits apart. And now when you don't train, you still feel motivated to follow that nutrition side of it. And I think that's a really common one. And then I'd
Yeah.
say the other one would just be people just get a little bit addicted to like should we say the rush or the stimulus or whatever. It's almost like drinking an energy drink or whatever. They like the energy and the feel good high that comes with it. And that's great. I mean, if it didn't give us that, none of us would be here training. That's a damn good thing that happens. But where else are you getting that in your life? Because if you're going to the gym every day or twice a day or whatever, is it because you should be getting it somewhere else, like at home or at work or whatever? Like you should be enjoying those parts of your life, but you're not. So now you're over dependent over here. Those are all questions I think need to be asked because whilst it's important and whilst it should be done long term, it can't be everything you have. In the same way that nothing should ever be everything you have. Like your job should never be everything. For example, even your family shouldn't be everything because otherwise you wouldn't go to work.
Yeah.
And you can't live, right? Like nothing can take up everything in your life. So there are plenty of people that go too far the other way. And I'm very happy, to admit that I was definitely on that spectrum. I was in a state of very poor mental health and self-harming and all this type of thing. I replaced that with just training myself into oblivion for many years. It's like
Yeah.
you're sore and broken, training twice a day, and it's like you're going in and you can barely do anything, but you still do it because that's why it's there right now, which is obviously not healthy. But it's important then to always boil, and again, this all just loops full circle back to the why are you there? Really, like, can you really sit down and ask yourself why are you there? And for example, if you have a client who walks in who's like, I just want to have some fun. I want to get out of my desk at work and just come in the gym and move my body a bit, get my heart rate up, sweat a bit, and just not feel so sluggish. Well, guess what? They don't need like a 12-week periodized crazy program. Like they can just, okay, let's just do some kettlebells. Let's do a mix of everything. Like, let's just go where you want to go. If that's your goal, that is now optimal for your
Yeah.
goal. Well done.
That makes me think of like my favorite clients to train back when I was in the gym that I was in were those like 6, 7 a.m.ers that were like on their way to work and you'd ask them like, so why are you training? And they're like, I just got to clear my head for the day, man. I
Mhm.
can't like deal with people if I don't train. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, hey, if that's what you want to do, that's great. That opens the door for a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's a productive way to look at it. It's not like masking anything. It's adding to your day and making you a better version of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think having goals like that, again, by some is maybe looked down upon. But as you said there, having a goal like that's awesome because it's like, guess what? We can do anything. Like literally, there's nothing that we have to do and there's nothing we have to avoid. Everything has got carte blanche. What do you want to do? Like, we do it obviously in a sensible way, but like that's complete freedom to explore. That's a really cool, like, you know, and trust me, there are plenty of athletes out there who are trying to get to like this high level. But they all wish they could just go in the gym and do a fun workout.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what do I just want to go around and push a sled and swing a kettlebell or whatever. Like, they can't. They're on these really structured plans because their goals kind of demand that. Every now and then they're like, oh, I kind of wish I could just go do that or go for a swim or whatever instead. So if your goal allows you that freedom, like, do it. Take advantage.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck in that cycle of you're the person that comes in every Monday and goes and does, the person that everyone in the gym knows what your routine is because you do it the same day, the same time every week. You don't need to be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, go do all of it. Have your trainer like, use their knowledge base, experiment with everything. That's awesome. And I think all of us should do that at some point anyway, because we get kind of rabbit holed into these habits, which is great. But for all you know, the thing that you love even more is just over there. Like you don't know, like you may try something like, you tried powerlifting for all you knew, powerlifting was going to be the thing that got you addicted for life. It wasn't, and that's cool, right? Or I presume
Yeah.
not, judged on how you talked about it, but until you tried it, you didn't know. So
Yeah.
like if you're that person who's been going in doing certain classes every week or whatever, like just go do something else because you just and again, you may look at it on the outside and be like, no. But I can't tell you the amount of people, for example, with like powerlifting or strongman, whatever, have been like, man, I never thought I'd be doing this. And they love it.
Yeah.
They're addicted well and truly in a good way. And you just don't know till you dip your toe in. So I would always say, like, as important as goals are and habits and routine, all that is, never quite, never shut out the room to just be a bit of a kid every now and then and be like, you know what, that looks fun. Let's go do that. Like, never shut that part of your psyche out because that's that's how you get bored, that's how you get stale, and that's how you stop discovering new things that maybe keep you in it for long enough, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing too with that approach is that you pick up a collection of such cool stuff along the way. Like, was powerlifting my end state? No, but I picked up a lot of really cool things from it. Like, dove into like West Side stuff, and I dove into like a lot of strength training principles and things like that where I just kind of went all in on it. And when you drink the Kool-Aid for long enough and then come out of it, you're like, okay, so I picked up some good
Mhm.
stuff I'm going to bring with me, but I'm just going to leave the rest behind. But you're better for it because you're just accumulating this backpack of like a bunch of useful things you can whip out
Mhm.
whenever you want to.
Yeah, for sure. And like, as we spoke about earlier, like the coach building that toolbox, the best coach, this is literally straight out of the book I've just finished writing. The best coach, in my opinion, has the biggest toolbox because every person is weird and wonderful in completely unique ways. And you're going to need them all at some point. Like it might only be once with one person, but you will need them all at some point. And the person who's got one training program, that might only suit 5 to 10% of people. And sure, you might be an expert on whatever that training style is. Good for you. That's if that's your jam, cool, that's fine. You also have to accept that there's only a certain amount of people you can serve with that skill set. Whereas I prefer personally the approach of let's try and help as many people as humanly possible to a good degree. Like, am I the best coach to get you, a world record marathon time? No. Am I the best coach to get you a world record squat? Maybe not. But I'm very good at getting a lot of people very good at a lot of things because I have that big toolbox. And I'm not trying to big myself up here. I'm just trying to say that for most coaches, very few of us are ever going to be in a scenario where we work with one demographic. Like that just, unless you get into a job where you're like a strength coach for a football team or something like that, you're going to work with a wide demographic of people. And if you have only a hammer, then all you can do is hit nails. You need, and I have no idea. This is where my mechanical, like, there are a lot more tools
As
in
you
a
were going
toolbox.
down this route, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
we just discussed how we are
yeah,
not good
yeah.
at this.
Yeah, you're gonna need whatever all those other tools are that I don't know the name of. You're
Those
gonna
silver things in the different shapes.
Yeah, yeah. You're going to need all of them at some point for all this wide demographic of people and preferences and goals at some point. So it behooves you not to just dip your toe into all these other different things and just experiment with them. And, as I hopefully you found out with powerlifting, there's always everything can teach you something, and pretty much everything will teach you something you also didn't expect to learn it. Like some of the coolest insights I've gotten have come from places completely unrelated to fitness or strength training. It could be from business or, I've coached people that were in like dance and gymnastics, and they've told me things that I've carried into like powerlifting and kettlebell training. And there are all these little dots that you can connect, which if you don't branch out enough, you never learn. And that's important, not just as a coach, but as a lifter or a trainee or whatever as well. Like you just don't know what there is to know or experience until you do it a little bit. And that's how you end up creating this kind of unique skill set, knowledge base, whatever, that either as a coach you can use to give your clients an experience or should we say a journey that no other coach can do because no one else has experienced all the exact things that you have, Or as a trainee, it allows you to create that individual journey that best serves you. Like no one else's, if you drew out someone else's fitness, training, nutrition plan for 5 years and followed it to the T, that wouldn't be best for you. You know, you have to
Yeah.
just do your own journey along the way, and that's going to involve trying things that inevitably don't work. And I think that's a bit that trainers and people are scared of as well. Like, I will very happily admit that I've written training programs that didn't work because there is no guarantee with any of this. You know, like everything, certain things can look great on paper. You do it and you're like, okay, nope. But you know, the reason you hire a trainer or the reason you aim maybe as a trainee to get more knowledgeable over time is you can reduce that margin of error. You can reduce the likelihood that you run into a okay, let's do something else. That was a no, you know?
Yep.
You know, as trainers, like, don't be scared to step outside your skill set and feel stupid every now and then. That's good. That's a good thing. It shows you're growing,
Yeah.
it shows you're progressing. And at some point, you're going to run into that client, or you're going to, as a lifter or whatever, you're going to run into that situation. You're like, I'm glad I went to that place where I felt dumb because now I know the thing that I need to know right now.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think I forget if it was Eric Cressy or Tony Gentilcore or maybe both of them said it at one point, but they were basically like, if you don't look back on your programs from like 6 to 12 months ago and you're not cringing a little bit, then you're not learning enough. And
man,
I think for the person listening right now that might not be like writing their own programs, but like if you're not looking back at what you did 6 to 12 months ago and you're not like, ooh, that didn't really work, then
mhm.
we're just not learning enough.
No, I'm really glad you said that because like I've said that a few times before and thought like, oh, this isn't going to go down well. But like you should be a little bit embarrassed about the programs you wrote a couple of
Yeah.
years ago because like that's fine. Like I wouldn't want to hire a coach that like hadn't changed their opinion in 10 years. Like what? So you just know everything now? Like that's it? You've leveled up, you've achieved enlightenment, like you're done? Like
Yeah.
even if that was the case, that I would still be looking for the thing that nobody else knows I don't know yet. You know, like it's not a great mantra or attitude, you know, like we wouldn't expect our clients to be like, I have achieved the goal, I'm going to stop. Done. Like we wouldn't, why would you take the own that same attitude with your knowledge base? You know, it's like, no,
Yeah.
you should constantly be leveling up because you just don't know how much you don't know. And all of that in some capacity trickles down over time to everyone else you coach. And, you know, it's really odd, isn't it? Because training and nutrition can be like infinitely simple and yet also kind of infinitely complex. Like you go down all these rabbit holes that, you know, go into the minutia and then you realize that really none of it is applicable to 99% of people, but you do take away like these tiny little scraps that like,
Mhm.
okay, that alters my process, my day-to-day process, just this tiny bit, you know, it's like finding the needle in the haystack or whatever. Like all the hay, that's useless, whatever. I got that one little needle out of it. That goes here. This is the 80-90% that I do day in, day out. I just got that one tiny thing. Cool. Where's the next rabbit hole? And it
Yep.
really does become like that. And you know, I'm sure you got that from like powerlifting or whatever. It's like, okay,
Oh
well,
yeah.
I did a
Every,
thousand things and I kept three. Okay, that's cool. Let's go get
yeah.
the next three.
Yeah. And it might even like for anybody listening who's like doing their own thing and just focused on themselves, not like us like trying to serve like tons of clients, like it might be such a shorter journey to get to that point to find your groove because there's people that find their thing and they're just like, okay, this is like all I want, all I need, and I'm good. Like you see that with people that really lock in on certain methods of training, and that might be your thing. Like you could get there. It's going to be a whole lot faster than us trying to help people that have like 5,000 different types of goals and trying to serve them as best we can.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, that comes back to like if you're getting in to train, like go do what you enjoy, but then just keep that little bit of room for like I'm going to try this. But
Yep.
there's we need to I think we need to reframe. Like people almost think sometimes, well, some almost look at it like the gym can't be something you enjoy because then it's not serious enough. You know, like but if I told you
Yep.
like, hey man, like what if you had a job that like you kind of like, you were so happy to be there, you almost like skipped into the office every day. Wouldn't you just say that's a really good thing? And you're probably going to be really good at that job because you're A, you're going to stay there, and B, you're going to want to be there and give the best representation of yourself. There's in that scenario, we'd say that's a fantastic thing. Everyone should try and find that job. Well, why does training have to be different? Yeah, I think sometimes people look at it like it can't be that because, like, if I really enjoy it and all this, like, maybe it's not serious enough or it's not hard enough or whatever. Like, life is hard either way. If
Yeah.
you do things you enjoy, life's still hard. You're happy that it's hard. It doesn't bother you so much. You do things you hate, it's really hard, but you're also now just unhappy about it. Like it's hard either way. Like just pick the version of hard that you like and go do that. That's cool. And don't.
It's almost like when you're like lifting super heavy weight, you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's hard and you're like about to blow your vessels in your eyes or whatever, but you're kind of deep down enjoying it. You're like,
Yeah,
this is awesome as it goes
yeah,
hot, as it starts going up and up and up.
yeah. Like this sucks, and I would not choose to be anywhere else.
Yep.
That's that if I had to sum up like how you know you found your thing, there it is. Like, cool. That's it. If like that moment, like I don't know, you hit the wall when you're running and you're like, let's do it. Like this sucks. I hate it. Let's go. Like there you sir have arrived. Congratulations. You found your thing. Go do that. And again, that may change over time, but that's the place you want to get to. And the sooner we get people focused on that and not what they should be doing to get certain results that they probably actually don't care about or actually want, because a lot of us think we want things because society maybe dictates it, or we think it's the done thing. So let's find that first, and then we can worry about all this. All this other stuff is minutia by comparison because it just detracts you from the thing that you're meant to be doing to make it sound way too philosophical.
Hey, I'm all about getting philosophical on here because I think that is probably the biggest thing that a lot of people
Mhm.
need to get a little bit more familiar with. It's all
Yeah.
there's so much surface level stuff, and that's basically all of social media where people get tripped up, where they're like, I see my favorite influencer doing X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, but we never get into the why behind it.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that we did take this direction. Like I came in with a couple of different notes here, but honestly, I am so glad to toss those in the other direction because I think people will get so much more out of what we just spoke about.
Yeah, for sure. And like, forget all the social media or the articles or whatever. Like, go to your local gym or whatever. Look at the people who are actually doing the stuff that you want to do. Not necessarily the exact thing, but what I mean is they're the people who are there week in, week out, working hard, not just going through the motions, but putting in the type of effort that is needed to get the results week in, week out. Talk to them about how they feel about what they do. And I guarantee you, they're not going to tell you it sucks or they're going to tell you that it's horrible every minute or whatever. They're probably not going to use the word optimal at any point. And they're probably not going to be able to go into this crazy scientific detail about why they're doing it. It's going to be some variation of it's hard. I like the challenge. I enjoy it.
Yeah,
It's so very,
or that like really like low level like bodybuilder way of explaining it. Like, yeah, man, you feel it like right up in here and then you get that deep muscle burn.
they enjoy it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's their way of saying like whatever that sensation is, I like that. I come back for that. That's cool. Some people get that from go sprinting on a bike or whatever. Some people get that from playing soccer or whatever. Cool. But those people that you're looking up to, man, I wish I could work that hard, that consistently. When you actually ask them like, why are you here? There's not good. It's not going to be an Instagram worthy post or explanation. It's going to be I enjoy it and I like
Yeah.
working hard at it. So here I am. And that's why you need to find that because forget everyone else, forget the social media or even the coaches, forget all them. The people who are doing the things that you aspire to, i.e., working hard, being consistent, having a good process and habit in place, are all doing things that they really don't hate. So
Yeah.
go find that.
Yeah. And that is a perfect note to end on to cap this all off. And Yeah, I don't even want to say anything. This is just right. Feels right. But before I hit the end button, where can people find you if they want to catch more of your stuff and they didn't catch part one, or they just need a little reminder to go follow you again?
Sure. So on Instagram at Phoenix Performance Training. That's where all of my stuff goes out. Any podcasts and stuff that I'm on, as co-host at the Table Talk, they're all at Elite FTS on their YouTube channel. But yeah, Instagram is the main place to get me. That dude, one social media channel is enough for me, man. Even that's a struggle.
I'm so jealous. I literally posted on the four that I did right before you hopped on. So
Yeah,
I am so jealous you keep it streamlined in the one.
it's all I have bandwidth for. That's all I can say.
That's
I'm
fair.
jealous. I'm jealous of you having the ability to put up with doing four.
It's not fun. I'll tell you that right now.
No.
That's probably when I get to a point where I could offload that onto somebody else. That's the first thing that's happening. Um,
You and
but
every
anyway,
other coach.
what's that?
You and every other coach.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. Anyway, as a thank you guys for Tom coming on, let's take a moment, and if at any point you heard something where you're like, "Damn, this really hit home," or you have that friend or family member that you know needs to hear this stuff, maybe they're stuck in that cycle of like doing all these things, not feeling happy about it, or they're just like you just kind of know they need to hear this conversation. Go send it their way. They'll be happy you did. And so will we. All right. So, Tom, thank you again for hopping on. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you taking all this time to out of your schedule to chat it up. I love our conversations.
It's a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, of course. And thank you to everybody that lasted all the way through. I hope you got a lot out of it. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. But go kick some ass. All right. Bye bye.